Welcome to PhD&D on YouTube. What's up, everyone? This is another episode of Wake Up and Smell the Dice. But it is a special episode because today is May 4th. Many of you know that is Star Wars Day. However, in our RPG online community, that is Community Day, or it always has been. Now, in this series, I normally talk about what's going on in the world of tabletop RPGs, what's going on in my personal world of tabletop RPGs, and then anything community related. So, for the Community Day, I'm just going to ramble. I'm going to film a few videos today just to get some stuff out, since there was not really a unified front for a Community Day theme. So let's start within the world of tabletop RPGs. I usually start and end with Wizards of the Coast. Now, there's not a lot of brand new news out there. However, there is in the iOS store, if you have an iPhone, you can now get, I think, what's called Dragon Plus, which is kind of like the predecessor, whatever. It is the next generation of Dragon Magazine, at least so far. It's free, so you can go on there, check it out. I looked over it, and there's free good articles. I mean, there's nothing to complain about with it. So there's even an article in the very front from Chris Perkins, and I know everybody loves that. So check that out. Other news, like I said, there's not a lot. I looked through the Princes of the Apocalypse book at the bookstore yesterday. For 5th edition, I'm not buying the adventures yet because I'm not going to run them, at this point, and I will not necessarily run them someday, but I will get them someday because I like to have them just for inspiration and whatnot. But they've got a price tag on them, so I will wait just a little bit before I add those to my collection. Now, like I said, there's not a lot of other news out, huge brand new news from them. They've got a couple good articles on their website that came out, but what I want to do is talk about a video that Nate at WASD20 did, where he was talking about what is the right amount of books to publish for a system. Are they not publishing enough? Some people are saying, can you publish too many? So I'm just going to give my opinion. I left a comment on his video, but my opinion for that is that Wizards of the Coast is doing it right this time. Now, as an avid fan of D&D and Wizards of the Coast, honestly, if they put out more product, eventually I'm going to buy that product. So, I would like to say that, yeah, I want some more books because I want to buy them. I want to grow my collection, have all these things for inspiration. But at the same time, that's not smart on their business end of things. The way that they're releasing these adventures slowly, kind of in line with D&D Adventurers League, that's the way they need to do it right now. And I say right now because in the future that may change. They may add more or less. But this way, you are getting a couple of new races, a couple of new options. They're free as well. They're releasing those free PDFs online, which is fantastic. But they coincide with these adventures as they're being released. They're doing them very slowly. They're doing them when they need to be released. Example, when they need that storyline for Adventurers League. And they can kind of gauge, from a business standpoint, how is this working? Do people think that they're getting enough content? Are people not even buying these? They can really gauge things, especially at the beginning of this new system. So, I think that they're doing it perfectly right. I think that in the future, what they don't need is, Player's Handbook 2, Player's Handbook 3, Dungeon Master's Guide 2. Those are types of things that they don't need. Those should be released kind of as they're doing now, at least for like the races, classes. Have those come out with adventures, have them be, free PDFs online, at least for the basics of them. And I don't know if they're updating D&D basics with a lot of this stuff. I haven't even looked, honestly, but it's free regardless. So I think for races and classes, that's how they should do it. Now, I do think there's publications that they could come out with that they could release more of that wouldn't bog down the system. In fact, it would not be related to, expanding the system necessarily. So a good example is a book like Elminster's Forgotten Realms. Sorry, I'm talking at the camera there. Sorry, found it. Elminster's Guide to the Forgotten Realms. Now, I pumped this book in a video. I've talked about it in a lot of videos. It's a great book. If you don't have it, buy it. It is basically a look at the Forgotten Realms in extreme detail from the viewpoint of Elminster, but more importantly, it's just chock full of world-building inspiration, of ideas for settings, of the details that you don't normally see elsewhere, like what people are drinking in certain regions, how holidays affect things, what are some exotic trade goods in this region, stuff like that. Basically fluff. It doesn't affect system. This came out during 4th edition. I have not seen a single 4th edition like Lule reference in here. Somebody said there's like 1 or 2, but that's it. So books like that where it's going to dive into a setting, for instance, maybe they do this, this one's good enough for Forgotten Realms, so maybe they do something for like Dragonlance or Eberron, any of those settings, Greyhawk, where it's this super detailed book that has nothing to do with mechanics really, maybe 1 or 2 references and that's it. But those would be great ways to present those settings. Again, without bogging down the system, I'm going to use 4th edition as an example. I know Pathfinder is a big example for a lot of people, but with my limited Pathfinder experience, I don't want to dog on it. So 4th edition had a lot of books. So I can look at my bookshelf and I have Player's Handbook 1, 2, 3, Dungeon Master's Guide 2, Monster Manual 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. And then the reinvention with D&D Essentials and all that. That bogs down a system, even with the online character builder that they had, which, apart from being just sketchy software that has a lot of issues, I mean, it was good overall for building a character, and it included all of those resources. Downside is, when you're trying to build a character, okay, pick a power, and you've got a list of 45 powers to look through because of all these resources. And again, at your table, you're not doing that. Maybe you just say, okay, choose from these books. But even then, you run into some issues. So where I'm going with this is they should not be expanding the actual system with a lot of publications. Maybe 1 or 2 a year where they really add race or class options, or doing it like they do now with just a couple of new options with each adventure. Now, those side books or the fluff books like this for settings or whatever, or maybe a book that just lists a bunch of magic items, a smaller book, or maybe a book that lists just some more tables, for instance, like a Dungeon Master's, not a Dungeon Master's Guide, but almost like a Dungeon Master toolbox book, something like that. Something that just expands on resources for a DM that you don't need to run a game. Those would be okay to release, I think, in a greater frequency than race and class options, which I do want to see, like I said, but they're doing it right. So I've been ranting on that long enough. Let's move on. Let's move on to my gaming. What have I been up to? Well, right now, this morning, I'm sitting here with the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I'm reading through the Adventures chapter 3 again, just to refresh myself as I'm writing the first adventure for my Candelure campaign. I'm at the point where we're probably going to start in June. The Air campaign is wrapping up, and basically got to be ready to go. So, the setting as a whole is not finished. It was not intended to be finished, by playtime. Just the kingdom they're going to start in is very well fleshed out. I've got the basics of the other kingdoms, and I've got basically enough to where we can start, and then they can influence things and world build as we go. So I'm building that adventure just to get them a few plot hooks they can latch on to, but that'll probably start in June. Last week we played the Air campaign, and if you saw some pictures on my Facebook page, they had a big outdoor. I used tile sets and the miniatures. They had a big terrain. They confronted some cultists who had taken over basically a holy site. They had to capture it and consecrate the site to basically fuel the revolution that's happening. So anyways, they did that. They might have 1 or 2 sessions left. Let me tell you, this is probably the first campaign of this size, the Air campaign, that I've actually had to close or like end and wrap up. And it's not easy. Our biggest campaign, which has been running for almost 5 years now, we play so infrequently with that one, like once every 4 or 5 months, because we all live in a lot of different areas. That one obviously is not wrapping up, even though we started it first. So it's at this superhero level, but I haven't had to like put a close on anything. So Air is really my first experience with a campaign this size, closing it, and it's challenging. I want them to feel satisfied. Most of their personal storylines have been fulfilled, but I want, a greater sense of closure for them at this point. And the decision basically came down from the party leader that he was ready, in his storyline, he was ready to retire. He had to, at this point, if he was going to settle down with who he wanted to settle down with, it was going to be now or never. So it's been challenging, but fun at the same time and a learning experience. So wrapping up the Air campaign, I am playing in the Uncharted Isles game, which we will play again this week. Over the weekend, we restarted or picked back up in another campaign, 4th edition, that I get to play in, called the Besieged Valley, with a different DM, and I got to play one of my favorite characters ever. He's a sword mage named Brandis, and that was a lot of fun. Almost died, but that was a lot of fun. So that one will be played maybe once a month if we're lucky, but just kind of picking up with a different group of players on that one. But that's kind of been my gaming. I'm just world building big time for Candelure, putting that together. Last week for my job, I had a big certification exam that I had to study for, so I did not get a lot done for this. So now I'm really hitting it hard now that I'm done with that. So other than that, I have not been up to much. I need to organize. I organized my dungeon tiles, as you saw. But now I need to organize all these, all of the tokens that I have, and I have a lot of them. If you can see these boxes over here, a lot of those came with tokens, so I have to organize those next. But anyways, let's move on. The community, I'm sure a ton of videos are going to come out today, May 4th. So, keep an eye out on that. The other thing that I wanted to mention with the community is, whatever you're not doing, try to start doing more of it. Now let me explain that further. If you're not really watching a lot of videos or watching a lot of different channels, start to. Make it a goal to check out, maybe pick 2 or 3 new channels even. Subscribe to them. Check out my recommended channels, Fistful of Dice's recommended channels, anyone else's. And really start to watch some channels that you have not seen yet. Make it a goal to watch at least the next 5 videos that come out from each of those channels to discover if you like what they're producing. I think we need to watch more of a variety. We get set in our ways. I've got 10 to 20 channels where I'm watching everything from them that comes out, and I've realized I'm subscribed to a lot more, but I'm not even watching what comes out, just because I've got this tunnel vision on my go-to channels. So watch more of other channels, For those of you that don't produce videos, or more specifically, those of you that have thought about producing videos, put a video up. You just have to do it. It's, you're never going to come up with this magical idea that's going to make you famous or that's going to go over really, really well. You've just got to be yourself in front of a camera, film it, upload it, share it. Send it to me, send it to anyone. I'll pass it on. People will watch if you get involved in this community. People will watch your videos. So if you're not filming, try it out if it's something you want to do. Other things, if you're not gaming at all, if you don't have a live game in person with a group, at your place or at your friend's place, and if you're also not playing online, do it. If you are playing all your games online, try to set up one at home in person, and vice versa. If you're just playing at home, like me personally, I play a lot of games at home. I need to get more involved in playing a couple of games online, even just one-shots. So a great place to do that is the Tabletop RPG one-shot group. There's also the RPG Wild West, I think. RPGW3, that's the group name on Facebook. You can go there. There's a lot of different places to find games online, and it's very easy to jump in and either run one or play in one. So if you're not doing one of those, try it out, because you get a totally different experience playing online versus in person. And there's pros and cons to both. Neither is better than the other, but try to just game more if you're not gaming. And for those of you that are gaming, I'm not going to tell you to stop gaming, so just keep doing what you're doing. Anyways, I'm going to wrap that up. This has been a long enough video, almost 17, 18 minutes here. So, in closing, May the 4th be with you. Since there's no major community theme today, I'm just going to film more videos and try to get a lot more content out this week because of our community day. Thanks again for watching. Enjoy your gaming and have a great week, everyone.